underway in the second flight of our second varsity 4. Lane 3, Indiana University. Lane 2, Radcliffe.
These fours races end up being a little bit closer to one another just because their times are a little bit longer than the 8s. You have half as less rowers helping you get across the line. You can definitely feel the technique differences and that wind and water where the conditions may alter your rowing. You definitely feel that more in a 4. Every little movement can impact how you get down the course.
Radcliffe crew off to an early lead here, half a boat length up over Indiana. In this race yesterday, these crews faced off against different opponents, and neither were able to pick up a win. So today, someone is walking away with a win. Radcliffe crew putting a definitive stamp on the first quarter of their race, getting out ahead. Bow to stern, overlap with Indiana still, but looking to open up some of that water here.
We have seen some very fantastic starts from Radcliffe, and we're seeing another one here today.
As we're just over a minute in, Radcliffe crew starting to open up that first little bit of water between themselves and Indiana. Again, we talked about a decisive start from Radcliffe, and they are opening it up, maybe 2-3 seats of water, continuing to move and really settle into the base of this race. Crossing that 500-meter mark, seeing those power lines for athletes familiar with this course. The power lines on our 2K course usually signal more or less the 500-meter mark. You're able to see those as a rower as you pass under them, and you know, okay, no matter what my coxswain is talking to me about, I've just passed the power lines. I know we're about 500 meters in, and I know I've got 5 to 6 more minutes of this.
Yeah, the job of the coxswain is pretty mysterious if you've never sat in that seat or you've never been a rower, but you're relaying a lot of information to the rowers, but you have to do it in a clear, digestible way to someone who is giving their all. I mean, it can be very hard, and sometimes you have to say things in different ways to really let it sink in. And so that might be giving them updates of where we are on the course. Do we see a wind gust coming through? How close are we to the other boats? And are we closing that gap? Is it opening? How sustainable is our stroke rate? Olivia will tell you we had a fantastic race at Big Ten. We started off, we had a great start, but when we got to that base sequence, we were too excited. It was just too high. So race plan out the window, I had to talk to the rowers and go, this is not sustainable. And we fixed it. And we had a very successful race, finishing first place. But if you don't make those hard, sharp decisions, you may not. And we've seen today crews kind of start out pretty strong, pretty high rates. Now, in the races we've seen, they have been able to sustain those, but that doesn't happen every day.
Again, looking at our margins here, Radcliffe crews dominant over the field. They've opened up 2 boat lengths of water, I would say, between themselves and Indiana crew, but tenacious racing from both crews here. Again, like we talked about earlier, when you open up a margin and when you are working to close a margin, you are racing the clock, you're racing other teammates in your program. Sometimes it's not just about the other crew that's on the water with you. You're showing your coaches back home who are watching the feed, who are watching you from the launch, how you're showing up in this race. Do you mentally show up well when your crew is down? You got to stay locked into this race, no matter what the margin is. How do you perform when your crew is up? You're not just letting it go once you're up there. You have to keep your boat moving and continue to open up that margin. Radcliffe crew, again, working on opening up more length, more distance between themselves and Indiana. We got some times at the 1,000-meter mark. Radcliffe with a 3:44, Indiana with a 3:54, 10-second margin between these two crews as they enter the second half of the race.
Yeah, and again, really trying to focus on other variables when you don't have a boat right next to you. You know, what is your stroke rate? What are your splits? Are there just things you can do with the boat feel to really make it more competitive? And you want to think about not just this race, but as we were talking about earlier, what are the margins compared to other boats, compared to the other races? And it can be hard to compare one race course results to the other, but we still have to do it here in the sport of rowing.
Again, joining us on the broadcast on the shore, Radcliffe crew still in this lead position, Indiana in second position. Several boat lengths of open water separating these two crews. I like to think of the second 4, the third 4 across any program. These are some of the grittiest athletes. They know what it's like to battle it out for their seat in the boat. I myself have spent time there. Helen, I know you spent time in the second and third four. As you come up in the program, this is where programs train their depth and build the depth of their program. Athletes in these crews may one day go on to be a part of the first varsity eight, second varsity eight. And this is kind of where they're cutting their teeth in these gritty battle paddle fours.
Yeah, the fours are hard. You can't take your moves personally if you get, seat raced or you get switched out of a boat. We see a lot more of that turnover and switching happening in the fours from week to week, whereas your first eight and your second varsity eight may be a little bit more consistent throughout the season. I would feel when I would come up to practice, in a four, especially after a hard racing weekend, I don't know who's going to be in my boat. Heck, I don't even know what boat I'm going to be in because the whole weekend may have changed everything. So it'll be interesting to see how, especially these lineups in the fours, continue to change as these crews go through their seasons and prepare for their championships.
Crews here now in the 6th minute of their race, starting to approach the line, fans on shore.
We have a great group of fans here out today. It is always great to see everyone on shore from all different teams. Thank you all for traveling here today.
Speaking as an athlete who's been on the water, we can hear you when you shout and yell. We might not be the most perceptive as we are emptying the tank of all of our energy and all of our effort and our focus, but we can hear you. It's exciting to for your athletes on the water to hear you shout for them, to yell for them, to support them. So it means the world.
Yeah, I can definitely say that my parents, especially my dad, was one of the loudest here on the shore. And so it's always great to hear loud, excited parents. We got a couple of cowbells out there, which is a pretty big tradition in rowing. We've got a cowbell going off at the finish.
Cowbell sound carries. We have these crews approaching the line. Radcliffe, dominant first position. Boat lengths of open water between them. Indiana, second position. Tenacious race from all crews here, demonstrating their early speed in the season. And it'll be Radcliffe approaching the line. Radcliffe over. And Indiana approaches the line. We'll take you back up to the start here as our third eight first flight gets ready to go. Indiana approaching the line. Indiana over. The first flight of our third varsity eights are sitting ready. If you're watching back at home or have a schedule on hand, we've shifted the schedules around a little bit. So we have got Radcliffe in lane 1, Indiana University in lane 2, the University of North Carolina in lane 3, and Ohio State University in lane 4. Again, Radcliffe will be closest to you on the shore. Ohio State will be farthest away.
I'd like to give a quick shout out to John Leonard, the Director of Rowing Operations and Boat Rigger for UNC. He and his wife Nicolette are here, challenging the Buckeyes on their home course. And it's always great to see all the people that go into making a race happen and possible. So we talked before, in those weather conditions we had yesterday, maybe you rig your boat a little bit higher. And today, maybe you lower it back down to what you're more used to since these conditions are a little bit better. But we've got all these people, all these coaches and boat riggers making those tough game time decisions with your equipment. And we got this race off here.
This is an exciting one. 4 crews across, mimicking some of the conditions that athletes will expect to see as they approach their championship season or go to some of these bigger invitationals. Lining up against 4, 5, 6, 7, I remember at Big Ten crews across, is really exciting for these athletes. It really challenges them. It keeps you in the race longer if you have more opportunities to battle out other crews as the field separates. Off to an early start. No immediate leaders here from where we sit. All crews still connected. Only 30 seconds into this race, and we are settling in.
And again, that's Radcliffe in lane 1, Indiana lane 2, UNC lane 3, and Ohio State in lane 4.
some early leaders. UNC looks to have gotten out ahead of the pack there in the white boat. The other three boats are in yellow shells. IU with a little bit of overlap, but UNC looking to open up the length ahead of the field. Radcliffe and OSU holding level on the outside lanes.
And we're seeing all of those crews getting closer towards those power lines here at around the 500-meter mark.
UNC opening it up. They've opened some open water between themselves, Ohio State and Radcliffe crew, and some open water between themselves and Indiana. UNC is moving, working to break away from the pack.
We were seeing quite the fight here for that third and fourth place position between Radcliffe and OSU at this point.
I would throw Indiana in there too.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a close one between what I'm going to call the yellow boats here in the second, third, and fourth place positions. But as we've seen today, anything can happen.
Right now, UNC with the lead over the field, open water ahead of these three chasing crews. I would say Indiana second position, followed by Radcliffe and Ohio State. Battling it out here. Indiana maybe has 4 seats over Radcliffe crew. Oh, Indiana moving. Indiana is now maybe 7, 8 seats up. Not a stern overlap over Radcliffe. Ohio State half a boat length down over Indiana. So right now, as we're reading it, UNC in that lead position. Indiana in second, Ohio State in third, Radcliffe in fourth position.
Again, especially for that second, third, and fourth place position, still anyone's race. Although UNC has really taken a decided lead here in first place, it's going to be hard to catch them at this point.
Yeah, and in this first half of the race, a really decisive showing from UNC here. And again, we talk about rowing as a game of margins. It's also, as a spectator, a game of your viewpoint, your position, where you're sitting on the water. The parallax effect makes it hard to tell who's ahead, who's behind if you're sitting at one static point. Luckily, we have drones, eyes in the sky, showing us where all these crews are on the other. UNC with a decisive lead over this field. Indiana in second position. Radcliffe in third, Ohio State in fourth.
Yeah, Radcliffe and Ohio State really battling it out here for that third and fourth place position, really just trading moves. Right now, Radcliffe is just ahead of Ohio State a little bit. They took a little bit of a move there, and it paid out.
UNC really they're taking really long strokes. I see their stroke seat reaching so far out over the gun, really setting a good rhythm, a good pace. We've got some times at the 1,000-meter mark for you. UNC a 3:23, Indiana at a 3:30, Radcliffe at a 3:34, Ohio State at a 3:35. So it's going to be competitive for that third place position. Only a second separating Radcliffe and Ohio State. And I imagine kind of difficult for their coxswains. They're looking at each other, eyeing each other up over 2 lanes of water between them. It's kind of tricky for a coxswain to see immediately across.
It can be very hard when you have that many boats, especially when you're in those middle lanes and you're looking left and right almost constantly. Sometimes it helps to just focus in on 1 or 2 boats that are within your grasp as true motivators, just so that you're talking consistently and clearly to your crew. But when these boats are only a seat or 2 off, I personally like to call that a coxswain's race. Who can give them the most effective feedback, call the moves right, and get the bow ball ahead?
Who can tell the right story? Sometimes a coxswain needs to lie a little bit, tell you that you're taking momentum when you're not to get it there. It's demoralizing to hear that you're getting walked through, but if your coxswain makes up a little fib, says, oh, look, we got some momentum. Let's build on it. That's a tactic. UNC here, a dominant lead over the field, swinging really well together, taking long strokes. They're cool, calm, collected, and in charge of this race.
Yeah, UNC having a fantastic race here. Here's a good shot of their boat and all those rowers moving well together. I mean, we talked about that swing, and just look at how their bodies are perfectly in sync. And especially with this third varsity 8, it just speaks to the depth of their program. They are several boat lengths ahead in first place. Again, a very strong, decided lead. Indiana still in that second place position. Radcliffe still in third, just a couple seats, though, above Ohio State.
This will be an interesting race for third position here. Crews are approaching that last 500 meters. Folks on the shore, they should be coming into your view soon. UNC out front, several boat lengths of water between them and second place Indiana. Indiana's got some water between them and the third and fourth place challengers, Ohio State and Radcliffe.
Yeah, Radcliffe's still holding on to a little bit of a lead of Ohio State. It's going to come down to the sprint here, folks. So get excited. Let those rowers hear you on the shore. And they are in the red, as we like to call it, where you're picking up your base rate and you're getting into your sprint. Your strokes may be a little bit shorter and you're bringing up the pace.
UNC, calm and collected, executing their sprint at the lead ahead of this pack, this 4-boat race. Things will be interesting as we finish this one up. UNC approaching the line. Fans are loud on the shore. UNC approaching the line. And that's UNC over Indiana, charging at the line in this confident second place position. Ohio State and Radcliffe crew battling it out.
It's going to be a close one here, folks.
There's Indiana. Ohio State and Radcliffe duking it out here. It's going to be close. It looks like Ohio State might have the edge, but Radcliffe is charging. A close finish.
Close one.
We'll get you some official times from that last race, but we do have a start underway in the next. In the 4th Varsity 8's first flight, we've got Ohio State in lane 2, Indiana in lane 3. Both crews looking calm and collected for that start. No early leader here from where we sit. Crews are just settling into this base pace, finishing up their starting strokes. In the 4th Varsity 8, a lot of these athletes maybe walk-ons to their teams, and this is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th time they're getting out on the water in an official race, maybe their 2nd regatta. And so this is a chance for these athletes to show their early speed, to show what they've learned. A lot are recruited on campus, maybe at that first welcome event at Ohio State.
So in that last race, here on the official results, Ohio State P3, 4/10 ahead of Radcliffe in Pre4.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll show it to you, but you might have to ask Lincoln in the booth to show a replay.
So a little bit of a shout out from my end. This 4th Varsity 8 is coached by my fiance, Bridget Schodorf. So really happy to be able to be here, support her, and support her athletes as they race here at home.
That's so heartwarming. Rowing it's a small community. A lot of athletes will go on to coach in other teams. This 4th Varsity 8 race here, Indiana looking cool, calm, collected. I'm coming too.
And so, folks, we are going to go to the video replay of the result of the last competition here.
Yep. Thank you. For those folks viewing on the broadcast, just checking a replay. Our referees with us in the booth to view that line. At the finish line, we do have a video camera set up, regardless of whether we are broadcasting or not, to record those finishes that are close. Again, we talked about rowing being a tough spectator sport. And sometimes at the finish line, based on where you stand, you might have a different perspective on who won. And so we will get those official times to you shortly. But that was an incredibly close race we saw in the last race. Literally a bow ball charging at the line. Sometimes it really is about who is taking their stroke at one particular time. If you take your stroke and you're just able to get just a little bit more water, just to get your boat to surge ahead of the other crew. Sometimes it really does come down to a couple of inches, which is incredible over the course of a 2-kilometer race. It comes down to something that's smaller than the size of your hand. Ohio State here leading the field over this Indiana crew in this 4th Varsity 8 race. Again, we were talking about the depth of these programs. A lot of the walk-ons in this crew, a lot of the freshmen in this crew may go on to contribute to their program. You may see some of the athletes here, give them 3 years. They could be in your 1st Varsity 8, your 2nd Varsity 8. This is the foundation of the next generation of athletes in each of these programs.
Yeah, and for walk-ons, it's such an exciting time. They're connecting with a new sport. They're starting to discover, hey, maybe I do have some real potential. I'm able to make an impact. And I didn't row in college, but I did cross-country ski, and I can tell you that it's such a privilege to be able to represent your university, and to be a part of an extended family like one of these top-level teams are.
Absolutely, these teams. I like to say that there's nothing more that you have in common with the other teams here. You all are facing off against athletes who have the same ambitions, who train the same way as you, who have the same amount of commitment. These Big Ten schools all have very similar pools of athletes with their ambitions and their training regimens. Getting some times at the 1,000-meter mark, Ohio State leading this Indiana crew a couple lengths of open water.
I mentioned before I'm a little biased, but this Ohio State crew moving really, really well. Great catches, great finishes, all swinging together, and yeah, and I think that's one of the cool things that I've seen watching rowing. That every school has kind of their own style. The more you pay attention, you can, even if you can't quite see the logos on the boat or the names on the uni, you can be like, oh, that's an Ohio State crew, that's an Indiana crew, and it's great to see that kind of program DNA kind of trickle down from those top boats all the way down to the novice level.
Absolutely. All these athletes learn by being in the room together with the other crews. In the spring, you separate into boats and you start to spend a little more time with these particular 9 women or 5 people in your crew together if you're in an 8 or in a 4. But during the winter season, all these athletes train together on the rowing machine. They're all sitting amongst each other. It's you separate into crews during the spring and you swap athletes out to try and get the fastest boats, but it is a team effort. For all these athletes, they train together. They spend hours a week, like a full-time job equivalent of a week together between their training, their athletic training, nutrition, recovery. It's a full commitment from all these athletes, and it's shown up on the water in every race today.
Yeah, and especially for these younger athletes, maybe in their walk-on program or just entering fours land, it's a really fun time because if you train, you're going to improve. Your technical level is going to improve. Your fitness is going to improve. And this is where their love for the sport can really start to solidify and learn how training, how that commitment can really start to pay dividends for themselves and their teammates and their university.
Absolutely. Here, as we're wrapping up our racing for the day, this is one of the last races coming down the line. Get loud on the shore. You have your Ohio State Buckeyes here. Indiana Hoosiers in a second position. Strong racing from all athletes on the water this morning.
Yeah, and this Buckeye crew launching a really convincing looking sprint in this last 100, 200 meters. Really setting the standard for themselves going forward as they start to move through the program.
And they're approaching the line. The flag is up. And the flag is down. Ohio State, 4th varsity 8 across the line. Indiana's 4th varsity 8 bringing it up for their sprint now.
Yeah, and these are still meaningful strokes for these Indiana rowers. Every race that you get is important, and especially, as different athletes are starting to improve at different rates, it's not always a given you're going to get another shot next week. So they're absolutely going to be putting every last little bit of power they can into that blade.
Indiana approaching the line.
Indiana closing it out really strong across the line.
Excellent racing here in the 4th varsity 8s. We're taking you back up to the start for the 3rd varsity 4s, first flight of the 3rd